When we hear the phrase Oriental learning, it refers to the study of traditional knowledge, philosophies, languages and cultures, especially from regions like China, Japan, Korea, Vietnam, and of course, India. As an academic field, Oriental studies embraces both the Near East and the Far East, covering their history, languages and cultures. A related branch, Indology, focuses specifically on Indian history, literature, philosophy and cultural traditions. In India, Oriental research institutes have played a vital role in this work. They collect, edit and publish manuscripts on religion, philosophy, literature, grammar, art and science. Institutions such as Sanskrit Vidyapeeth fall under these Oriental learning programs. Asked in exam. Now, pause here because institutions themselves are often asked in exam. For example, the Asiatic Society, founded in 1794 by Sir William Jones, stands as one of the earliest and most famous centers of Oriental research. It preserves rare manuscripts in Sanskrit, Arabic, Persian and other languages, making it a cornerstone for Indology and cultural studies. In the modern era, we also have institutions like the Oriental Education Society, founded in 1992 by Javed Karan. This charitable trust runs 13 institutes across Navi Mumbai, serving over 8,000 students. Unlike classical Oriental institutions, it combines heritage with professional education, reflecting a reimagining of Oriental learning for today's globalized India. Equally significant is the Adyar Library and Research Center in Chennai, founded in 1882. With over 175,000 printed books and more than 18,000 manuscripts, it is one of the most respected Indological libraries. It specializes in Indian philosophy and theosophy and is known for publishing rare texts, including a series on the 108 Upanishads. The Baroda Oriental Institute, established in 1893 under Sayaji Rao Gaikwad, has also been vital. It houses nearly 789 Sanskrit volumes alongside texts in Hindi, Gujarati and other ancient scripts. With a special focus on Vedic studies and translation projects, it continues to make classical knowledge accessible to modern readers. Once again, note this. Institutions like the Sanskrit Vidyapeeth also stand as examples of this tradition, asked in exam. Finally, the Oriental Research Institute at Mysore, founded in 1891, later expanded to Tirupati in 1941. It safeguards thousands of Kannada and Telugu manuscripts while also supporting research in Sanskrit, religion and philosophy. Its work connects regional heritage with broader Indian intellectual traditions. Together, these centers, Asiatic Society, Adyar Library and Research Center, Baroda, Mysore, Tirupati and others, stand as custodians of knowledge. They ensure that ancient traditions remain alive in scholarship, bridging classical wisdom with modern inquiry. When we talk about education systems, it's useful to think of them in two broad categories, conventional learning and non-conventional learning. Let's walk through both carefully because exam questions often play on these distinctions. Conventional learning is what most of us picture as traditional education. Think schools, universities, medical colleges, law schools, or even military academies. It's built on a structured curriculum approved by educational authorities, asked in exam. The method is teacher-centered knowledge flows in one direction, from the instructor to the student, asked in exam. Regular attendance, discipline, and examinations with grades, asked in exam, keep the process uniform. The emphasis falls on theoretical knowledge rather than hands-on skills, asked in exam, with the goal being academic certification. The tools of this system are familiar textbooks, blackboards, lectures, and standardized tests. Technology plays almost no role here. Conventional learning values stability and continuity, but it offers very little flexibility in pace or curriculum. Now, contrast this with non-conventional learning. Here, the structure loosens and the learner comes to the center. Non-conventional approaches emphasize self-directed, experiential, and interdisciplinary methods, and yes, this has been noted in exams. The focus is not just on acquiring knowledge, but also on developing skills, attitudes, and values. Asked in exam. Instead of one fixed curriculum, resources are adapted to the learner's needs. Asked in exam. The scope is wide, from modern fields like ethical hacking, online courses, and spa management to unusual ones like pet grooming or tea sommelier training. Even government initiatives like Swayam are recognized as part of non-conventional higher education. Asked in exam. Examples include IGNOU and NIOS for distance education, online platforms like Coursera and edX, skill-based institutes like ITIs and polytechnics or alternative schooling systems. Experiential models like apprenticeships and internships also fall under this category. Pause here and remember this principle. Non-conventional learning shows us that education can happen anytime, anywhere, as long as it is meaningful and connected to real-life challenges. So, while conventional learning represents tradition, discipline, and fixed systems, non-conventional learning represents flexibility, skill orientation, and adaptability. Together, they map the full spectrum of how humans acquire knowledge. When we think about non-conventional education, one of the most important models is the community college. These institutions exist to widen access and keep learning connected to real life. Unlike conventional degree-based systems, their primary objective is to provide skill-based education in higher education. This point was asked in exam. The idea is simple: make students work ready while keeping education flexible and relevant. Community colleges are especially valuable for rural learners, working professionals, and economically disadvantaged groups. They integrate vocational training with open learning methods, aiming to build a large pool of work-ready manpower at the national level. Again, this was asked in exam. Now, what makes them different in structure? Instead of only degrees, community colleges offer short-term certification programs, diplomas, and associate degrees. Their curriculum is flexible and constantly adapts to industry needs. Asked in exam. And here's the golden detail: they allow lateral entry into mainstream higher education so students can move into advanced studies. They also ensure vertical mobility. Asked in exam, meaning a student can start with a certificate, move to a diploma, and eventually transition to a full degree. But it's not just about academics. Community colleges emphasize life skills, hands-on training, and entrepreneurship, giving learners the option of self-employment and sustainable livelihoods. The teaching methods are blended, online, offline, and practical training combined. Pause here and note this: while some community colleges overlap with conventional education by offering formal degrees, their core identity lies in promoting accessible, industry-driven, community-focused education. They act as a bridge, closing the gap between academics and employability. So, when you think community colleges, remember 4 anchors for your exam: skill-based higher education, manpower creation at the national scale, flexible curriculum tied to industry, and vertical mobility into mainstream education. In today's education system, professional, technical, and skill-based learning plays a vital role in preparing students not just for exams, but for employability, industry readiness, and even entrepreneurship. Unlike conventional academic streams that lean heavily on theory, this model emphasizes hands-on training, practical knowledge, and market-driven skills. Let's break it down. Professional education trains students for specialized careers: law, medicine, management, and similar fields. Technical education focuses on engineering, applied sciences, and technology. And then comes skill-based education, built on the principle that knowledge is retained best when practiced in real life. Asked in exam. This is where vocational training, craftsmanship, and trades come in, equipping learners directly for workforce opportunities. Pause here and note this: in India, key bodies like the AICTE, the NSDC, and the UGC regulate and strengthen these programs. And on the national level, initiatives like Skill India and the National Education Policy 2020 have expanded access, encouraging even community colleges to offer career-oriented pathways. The bigger vision is clear. Graduates should not just walk out with degrees. They should walk out as industry-ready professionals, ready to innovate and contribute to economic growth. And here's another important point. This framework is not separate from the broader education system. It connects seamlessly with different stages of schooling, from primary right up to higher education, giving learners options to either move into academic study or into employment-oriented training. So, professional, technical, and skill-based education bridges a crucial gap. It makes sure that education is not only about knowledge but about employability, ensuring students are equipped for real-world challenges. When we talk about higher education, we're really talking about tertiary education, and yes, that term has been asked in exam. This refers to all forms of learning pursued beyond the secondary level. Universities, colleges, technical institutes, and vocational centers offering undergraduate, postgraduate, diploma, and doctoral programs. It's the stage of education that prepares students not only for careers but also for research, innovation, and advanced knowledge. In India, higher education is regulated by powerful bodies. Can you recall them? The University Grants Commission, UGC, the All India Council for Technical Education, the National Council for Teacher Education, NCTE, and the Medical Council of India, MCI. Together, they oversee quality, accreditation, and professional standards. And don't forget the National Education Policy of 2020, which pushes for multidisciplinary learning, skill integration, and digital platforms to enhance employability. Now, here's a fact you must pause and note. India's higher education system is the third largest in the world after the United States and China, asked in exam. That scale alone makes it one of the most important systems globally. The system itself has three broad categories. First, academic degrees such as a Bachelor of Arts or Master of Science, which are general and non-professional. Second, professional degrees like MBBS or LLB. And even doctoral programs like PhD in chemistry or M.Pharma, yes. Even postgraduate research degrees are officially recognized as professional programs asked in exam. And third, technical degrees which cover engineering, IT, and applied sciences. So whenever you hear the phrase tertiary education, remember this: structure, scale, regulation, and diversity. Those four anchors capture why higher education remains one of the central pillars of India's intellectual and economic future. When we think of education today, it's not just one path, but many. Each type has its own purpose, structure, and relevance in exams, so let's walk through them carefully. First, vocational education. This is what we often call skill-based learning. Its focus is practical, preparing students for trades like mechanics, carpentry, or hospitality. Training happens in ITIs, polytechnics, and specialized colleges. Unlike conventional academics, it prioritizes hands-on training over theory. In India, it's supported by AICTE, NSDC, and UGC, and boosted by initiatives like Skill India and the NEP 2020. Vocational education leads to diplomas, apprenticeships, and certifications that directly enhance employability. Next, academic degrees, the traditional BA, BSc, MA, MPhil, and PhD. These are non-professional courses aimed at intellectual growth and subject expertise rather than immediate career training. They deepen understanding, prepare students for research, and sometimes act as stepping stones to professional programs. Think of English, physics, economics fields where specialization, not instant job readiness, is the focus. Historically, BA, BSc, and BCom were considered the very hallmark of higher education, valued for rigor and prestige. Then comes professional education. This is designed for clearly defined careers. It combines theory with practice in law, medicine, management, pharmacy, and education. Degrees you must remember for exams include MBBS, MD, BDS, MBA, LLB, LLM, B.Ed, and M.Ed. along with certifications like CA, IC, WA, and CS. Professional education is career-oriented and job-ready by design, ensuring graduates have the exact competencies their fields demand. Now, technical education. Here the focus is the application of science and technology, engineering, architecture, town planning, management, pharmacy, even hotel management. Its regulator is the AICTE, first set up in 1945 and formalized under the AICTE Act in 1987. Common examples asked in exams include B.Tech, M.Tech, diplomas in engineering, B.Arch, M.Arch, and pharmacy degrees like B.Pharma and M.Pharma. Technical education fuels industrial growth and innovation, equipping students to apply theory to real-world challenges. Finally, skill-based education closely linked to vocational training. This model emphasizes manual, applied, and technical skills often aligned with industry demands. An exam fact to note: back in 2011, the Indian government decided to establish the National Institute of Design in Andhra Pradesh, Assam, and Haryana. Skill-based education is reinforced through ITIs, the Pradhan Mantri Kaushal Vikas Yojana, Sankalp, and polytechnic schemes. It even enters schools now, ensuring employable skills are nurtured early. So, think of it this way. Academic education builds scholarship. Professional education builds specialist. Technical education builds technologist. Vocational education builds practical workers. And skill-based education blends into all of these to make learners job ready. In today's educational landscape, knowledge alone isn't enough. Students must also cultivate values and environmental awareness to grow into responsible citizens. That's why value education and environmental education are now seen as two pillars of holistic learning. Let's begin with value education. At its core, it emphasizes moral, ethical, social, and cultural development. Asked in exam. One of its central aims is moral development, and this was asked in exam, which comes through fostering concern for human values. It has also been asked in exam. Teaching methods matter. Here, the discussion method is considered the most effective, again asked in exam. Case studies are also particularly useful for developing moral reasoning. Well, this has been asked in exam as well, while stories and value-based activities reinforce ethical habits. The University Grants Commission has repeatedly stressed the importance of value education asked in exam, linking it to character building, empathy, and discipline. A decline in moral and ethical standards, by the way, is best described as a value crisis asked in exam. Pause here because thinkers' perspectives are often asked. Swami Vivekananda declared, "Education is the manifestation of perfection already in man," asked in exam, while Albert Einstein reminded us, "I never teach my pupils. I only attempt to provide the conditions in which they can learn," asked in exam. Within Bloom's taxonomy, evaluation itself is defined as judging the value of material for a given purpose, asked in exam. And don't forget Bhai Veer Singh of the Singh Sabha movement, whose writings shaped Sikh education and identity, asked in exam. Now, let's shift to environmental education. This too has been highlighted in exams as essential, asked in exam. Its purpose is not only knowledge, but also awareness, attitudes, skills, and active participation. Students learn about natural resources, conservation, and eco-friendly practices so they understand their role in protecting the planet. In India, policy milestones matter. The 42nd Amendment of 1974 made it the duty of the state to preserve and improve the environment. The National Policy on Education 1986 called for environmental awareness in schools. And in 1991, the Supreme Court of India made environmental education compulsory at all levels, cementing it as a national priority. So, what's the big picture? Value education shapes ethical citizens, while environmental education prepares sustainable citizens. Together, they ensure learners not only excel academically, but also grow with integrity, empathy, and a sense of stewardship for the world they inhabit.